All right, guys, the truck pulled up on the dock. Today, in our video, we're gonna be going over how to upgrade and install that 5-gallon stealth system on an F-150. The one that we're using in this truck is Matt's 2021 F-150. He's got our discontinued dual tank spare tire delete kit on there. We're gonna be giving him that sweet upgrade with our 5-gallon stealth spare tire delete kit. Let's get right into the video. Yo, exciting day.
Upgrades.
Going
from the, what I had before, I had the 2-gallon, and now I'm going to have the 5-gallon stealth spare tire delete.
Heck yeah.
I'm super excited. Also, we got the new HornBlasters remote. It has some extended range on it.
Oh, heck yeah. Oh, careful.
Today's the day, finally. Oh,
there we go. Yeah, we're gonna get that old Gen 1 remote box pulled out. Oh, all right. That was easy. Quick and easy, baby. Getting right to it.
yeah. This kit's been great for me for about 5 years. I'm going to sell this old one on Facebook Marketplace or something. Time to upgrade to the 5-gallon. If you want some more blast time, get your 5-gallon stealth spare tire delete today. HornBlasters.com, link below. The
base kit is going to be the S4 54K, the Nightmare Conductor Special 5-gallon kit paired with the 5-gallon stealth bracket. We'll get this top box here opened up. I'll show you one important thing here in the top of the box. On the inside flap, you're gonna scan for instructions on there. When you scan that, on that first page of the instructions will be a components list. Once you get everything unboxed, you can use that components list that's at the top of the instructions to make sure you have every single part that comes with these kits. I'm gonna take all the components out of both of these kit boxes, and then we'll just do a little bit of an overview on all of the parts that come in the kit. Got the 1NN air compressor, part box. Dang, look at that. HornBlasters banner. Yep. HornBlasters stickers. Those Shocker XL horns themselves are going to be in this kit box here. Got that 5-gallon tank. Look there. Hey, all the goodies. A HornBlasters hat. Got all the main components out of there. Now we got the mount itself with the rest of the hardware to put the mount together. Hold on, that's a freebie. All right, so you'll have the part box for the bracket. Then we got that 5-gallon HornBlasters stealth spare tire delete kit bracket. And then in this box, we got even more HornBlaster stickers. All right, so main components. We're gonna pull the camera closer, go over everything here in a little bit more detail. All right, so we got the big boy 5-gallon. There's gonna be some red plugs in these ports on the tanks. Some of them probably already fell out in the kit box. You don't need those. You can just take all those out, toss them to the side. That's a 5-gallon tank. We're gonna mount that onto the bracket later. All right, in this tall box here is those Shocker XL horns. This is the hardened sound of the system. We got those 4 Shocker XL horns in this box, all different sizes. There's airline in this as well. We got 1/2 inch. And the 5/16 smaller airline. So there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4 Shocker bells. Remember, this is what gives you the blast. These are the tried and true Shocker horns made right here in the USA. You got the air valve in that box as well. This is what's gonna pass the air from the tank through the fittings to horns to make them honk. Air valve. And then we've got the fittings that we need here. These are the fittings that are gonna go on the back side of these horns. The fittings on the other side here, this banjo goes on the other side of the valve. That's how we plumb it all together. That's how the system's gonna honk. All right, now this component kit here that came with the stealth bracket box itself, this is gonna be all of the necessary hardware and the rest of the smaller brackets to put this together. So you've got a couple assorted hardware and fitting bags in there. All of these are gonna be necessary to put things together later. We've got a couple pre-cut pieces of 1/2 inch to go from the valve to the tank later. We got 3 safety cables to keep that system secured once you do have it up in place. Just extra safety measure. If the crank hoist on your vehicle were to fail, you've got the safety cables on there. Your train horn system's not going to drop off the back of your vehicle and flat on the road. These are the isolator feet for the top of the feet. When we put those together later, this helps keeps this system up in place in that spare tire well, not moving around. And we got a couple other bracket components. You've got the main puck bracket that will bolt to the bottom of that. I call this the Z bracket. This is what goes on the side of the bracket here. You mount the valve to that. And then this is the cable retention bracket. That's gonna close this side here. Bolt that together. If you do have a couple of the trucks, full-size trucks, where the puck is too big to fit through the hole, you'll put the cable through the side to put the puck on the bottom, and then you'll use the cable retention bracket to close this bracket up. Those are all of the components that come with the 5-gallon Stealth bracket itself. Lastly, we'll go over some of the wiring components, the fittings for the tank, and the Nightmare 1NM air compressor that comes with this kit. The small 6-inch cube part box that came out of the 5-gallon Nightmare kit, it's gonna have the rest of the components we need. So we got the wiring kit. I see Teflon in there. There's an airline cutter, HornBlasters lanyard. It's got all like the little electric terminals that you'll need to get all the wiring components together. The fitting kit and the mounting hardware for the 5-gallon tank. HornBlasters stainless steel air gauge. The HornBlasters sealed pressure switch with built-in relay. This is what's going to send power from the battery through this to the compressor, regulates that on and off by sensing the pressure in the tank. So your system's only running when it needs to. We've got the main 8-gauge power wire that comes in this kit, and then we got the 2 smaller 18-gauge power wire for running the grounds on the valve and the key power on source for the pressure switch itself. Got the 1NM compressor here, guys. Inside the compressor box, replacement filters. These are replacements. You're gonna wanna swap these out, maybe quarterly, biannually. You can always take the filter housing off the compressor and inspect that filter yourself to see if it's, got dirt and debris in it. The airline that comes with the compressor is only for the compressor, guys. This is just to relocate that air filter on this kit. There's the air filter there. You're gonna use the fittings that come with this and this airline that comes in the compressor box to relocate this filter to a moisture-free, debris-free space to make sure this compressor is always getting clean, dry air. Also in the box, we got the mounting hardware. That stainless steel mounting hardware, that's what we're gonna use to mount the compressor to the Stealth bracket itself. We'll get this compressor taken out of the styrofoam. Whenever you go to install these, you're going to want to make sure you take out the 2 plugs that come on these. You've got 1 small red plug on the outlet of the check valve, and then you'll have 1 small plug right here on the inlet of the compressor. You're going to want to make sure you remove those before install. So we've got the compressor, mounting hardware, replacement filters, filter housing with fittings for the inlet relocation kit. All right, so moving right along with the installation, we're going to grab that 5-gallon tank. You're going to want to locate the fitting bag that we pulled out of the smaller kit box. It's got the assorted fittings and the tank mounting hardware. And then you're going to want to go to your universal wiring kit bag. You're going to want to pull out the roll of purple and green Teflon. Following the instructions very specifically. In step 4, there's a specific location for each one of these fittings. Each one of these fittings has a specific home on the tank. When you're installing the fittings into the tank port, we're going to grab one of these like 1/2 quarters, for instance, and your Teflon. You're going to want to pull your Teflon out. You'll attach it onto the fitting like so, and then you're going to rotate it clockwise. 4 rotations. Oh, we got 4 on there. And then this fitting will be ready to go in the port. You're going to repeat that Teflon process on all of the fittings that are going onto the tank. All right, just a few of the fittings that you're going to need to plumb the 5-gallon tank are in the separate bag that only came with the Stealth spare tire delete bracket itself. So you're going to want to get those 3 fittings pulled out. the two brass elbows, and the push connect airline elbow. And then we're just gonna briefly go over the fittings that came in that first bag with the 5-gallon tank. You should have one 3/4 inch plug, one 1/2 inch plug, 4 1/2 to 1/4 reducers, one straight 1/2 inch push connect, a 1/2 inch drain, and the safety blow-off valve. All right, so we've got most of the fittings put into the ports of the tank here. For now, you're gonna wanna make sure these are just loosely hand tightened, because we're gonna come back later and tighten them all down. Now be mindful, NPT, it's a flared fitting. You do not have to try to seat the fitting flush with the tank port. That could lead to over tightening, causing more leaks than you'd ever want to deal with, all right? Now you see these two ports here that they're empty. We need to fully mount the pressure switch onto this port here before we go and install the 1/2 inch plug on this side and the 1/2 to 1/4 in this side over here. On the bottom, we've got a 1/2 to 1/4 and the safety blow off. On this side of the tank here, we've got a 1/2 to 1/4 and the 1/4 inch elbow. That is a brass elbow. On this side, we've got the 1/2 inch push connect elbow. On the top is gonna be that 1/2 inch drain cock. All right, now, this 1/2 to 1/4 here, we got that one tightened down. We're gonna grab our pressure switch. We're gonna put it on this one fitting here. Get that flush, get that rotation done. We're gonna go hand tight, and then one full rotation with the adjustable wrench. Bring that one back down right there like that. All right, now we can go back in here and install the 1/2 to 1/4 reducer for the gauge and the 1/2 inch plug. We're gonna get the rest of the fittings tightened down. We're gonna come through here, install our air gauge right here. And then we're gonna get to mounting some more of the components onto the stealth bracket. All right, we got the mounting hardware for the compressor. The compressor itself is going to mount in the slot like so. The leader hose is gonna come out of the back where you have the 3 slots, where if you were to mount the 3Q, you have that center one, but this is the back. Leader hose is gonna come out like this and go into that back tank port. We're gonna get this compressor mounted to the bracket with the supplied hardware that comes in the compressor box. All right, guys, compressor is all mounted in there, secure as it gets. We're gonna grab the shocker horns themselves and we're gonna mount them on the outsides of the bracket. Once we get one installed, we'll show you that one mounted, and then we'll go 2, 3, 4. Hardware on the back side of the bell is gonna be one flat washer and a nut. This nut is 1/2 inch. And then on the front side, you've got 2 washers and a nylon lock nut. That's gonna be 10 millimeters. We got that on the socket. We're gonna go ahead and get this put in the longest side back here. We'll show you what it looks like once the horn is mounted to the bracket. Whenever you guys are tightening the hardware down on these, mind you, this is a locking insert nut on this front one. So, you know, you'll just go until it gets tight, maybe a little bit 1/4 of a turn, and then you'll be good on this front one. Just like that. Now, on the back one, same kind of thing, right? We've got the brass nut on there. We hand tighten it, 1/4 of a turn, that's it. You over tighten that and you're gonna pull the stud out. Bell number 2, second longest, gonna mount in the opposite direction of bell number 1, right here on the top. Moving right down the line, we got bell number 3. We're gonna put it right here on this side. Bell number 3 is installed on the bracket. Look at the direction here. The opening of the horn is on the H side of the bracket. We're gonna mount number 4. All right, there we go, guys. We're getting the last bolt tightened down on the front of the 4 bell. We're gonna use our 1/2 inch wrench here to give that 1/4 turn. Oh, it was a little loose. There we go. One more 1/4 turn. Oh, still was a little loose. Forgot what about. Got our 1/2 inch wrench. Gonna do the 1/4 turn on the back of the gray one. Just check all the back of the gray ones. Yep. Don't want to over tighten these. You will pull that fitting out. All right, all the horns are mounted to the bracket. You're gonna want to locate the fitting bag that has the 4 elbows and the 4-way banjo. We're gonna pull these elbows out of here and we're gonna put all of those on the inlets of the horns. Now, they do not need Teflon. You do not need to put Teflon on the threads for these fittings because this is a non-pressurized side of the system, right? Got 4 of these? We got 4 of these? Let's get them installed. All right, all 4 of the shocker elbows are on the inlets of the horns. We're gonna grab our 14mm wrench. Once these are all hand tightened, you're just gonna wanna come in here with the wrench, quarter of a turn, done. It's NPT, it's flared, it'll hold. Do not over tighten these. These longer 3/8 bolts, that's what we're gonna use to mount the 5-gallon tank on the bracket. We're gonna pull the tank over here. We got the complete hardware that we need to mount the tank to the bracket, and we're gonna show you the slots on the bracket that are used for the 5-gallon tank, because this is also slotted for a 2-gallon. All right, guys, the 5-gallon tank mounts on the outer holes. A little cheat code here is putting the Stealth just one bolt hole off the side of the table so we can get that one side of hardware going. Makes it much easier to flip the system over and do it. We made it a little bit easier. We did take out the drain plug from the bottom of this, so whenever we flip it over, it's a little bit easier to balance it on the table and install the back hardware. We got our ratchet loaded with the 14mm deep socket. We got our 14mm wrench. We're gonna tighten those 2 bolts down that we only hand tightened so far. We're gonna get those tightened up. We're gonna flip the bracket on the table, and then we're gonna install the last hardware to mount the tank on the bracket. Got the check valve here. We're gonna get that plumbed into the back tank port. I'm gonna grab my adjustable here. Guys, remember we put this almost all of the way tight earlier. We're gonna give it a little bit more, just so we can get the right alignment that we need for the check valve. There we go. You're gonna wanna wrap the 4 revolutions clockwise of Teflon on the check valve before you install it into the elbow. Less is more on the check valve. We've gone as hand tight as we possibly can. I'm going to put 1/2 turn on this, guys. There, 1/2 turn. All right. Once we get it installed and we're airing up the system, we'll check for leaks. You know, if we need to do a little bit more tightening down of the check valve, we will, but you do not want to over tighten the check valve. All right, we got that 5/16 run up along the inside of the bracket. Whenever you seat it into the banjo, you just want to press straight in. You'll almost feel like a little bump, and then that's locked in place. We're gonna repeat that process for all of the rest of the elbows to connect them to the 4-way banjo. Now that our tank's mounted, we pulled this Z-bracket out of the part box. The Z-bracket is gonna go right here on the back of the Stealth. There's 2 holes right on the back. That'll bolt up there. The valve will bolt to this. You're gonna mount this to the bracket and the valve to this bracket using some of those 3/4 inch 5/16 bolts, washers, and insert nuts that were in the bag with the Stealth bracket itself. All right, the Z bracket is mounted on the Stealth itself. We're gonna plumb the fittings onto the valve before we mount the valve to the Z bracket. Guys, look at the arrows on the valve. The valve is directional. The average push connect is gonna go on the inlet side. The arrows are gonna point to the side that has the banjo fitting. Guys, do not need to over tighten this side, as this is the non-pressurized side of the valve. You wanna go hand tight on this side, full turn of a wrench. This one can be hand tight, quarter turn with the wrench. We'll finish getting these fittings tightened in, and we're gonna mount the valve to the bracket and then start to work on plumbing the airline. The valve is now mounted. You can see that we've got the fittings plumbed. We left the bottom bolts just slightly loose so we can slide the valve back. That's gonna help us get the best seal when we install this 1/2 inch airline here. So you're gonna go to your electrical component bag. You're gonna pull out the small white airline cutter box. All right, so we're gonna push the valve back, right? We're gonna go from the, turn this so you guys can see it. We're gonna go from the base of the fitting here to the base of the fitting here. Gonna mark that, just kind of with my finger. Put that in the airline cutter. All right, got that chopped. All right, now, mind you, remember, it's slid back so we can more easily sink the airline in the fitting, right? And then we can push it back to make sure, there we go. We get that optimal seal, perfect. Both of them are all right. Got that optimal seal, guys. The airline is snug into both fittings. We got that valve moved back. We're gonna get the valve tightened down and then work on plumbing the smaller 5/16 airline to the horns. Super easy way to cut 4 equal length pieces. Don't have a tape measure. Guys, do a run, got both ends together. We're gonna go here like this, run along the side. Don't have to get too close on this pole. We don't wanna kink the airline. Oh, look, there we go. So we're gonna make one cut here, and then we're gonna do that same process again for each piece, giving us 4 equal length pieces of 5/16 airline. Sweet little twisty tie that comes with the airline for the compressor. I'm just gonna wrap that around here, kind of neaten everything up a little bit. probably a zip tie too, but we're using all of the components that would have came with the kit. Look at how nice and neat those lines are running into the valve. All right, we got the 5/16 airline plumbed. We're gonna get the cable retention bracket mounted up inside here. Now, we know that on this F-150 it's going to work because we've done installs with our regular standard slot on F-150s time and time before. But if you're not doing this on an F-150, you're gonna wanna make sure you check to see if that factory spare tire puck will fit through here if this was in place, right? If your spare tire puck is too large to fit through the center of this, you're gonna want to just mount this onto the bracket. You'll put that cable to the side here. You'll go up and in once it's mounted in place on the vehicle, and then you'll come through here and put that cable retention bracket on the side. But again, since it's F-150, we know the puck's gonna fit through there. We're gonna take another set of those 5/16 bolts. We're gonna mount the cable retention bracket in place here, and then we're gonna use 4 of the 5/16 bolts to mount this cable retention bracket to the slots underneath the Stealth spare tire delete. Once we finish getting this put on the bracket, we're gonna pull the truck in the bay, and we're gonna get working on installing this on the F-150. All right, guys, there we go. The last of the 5/16 bolt sets that holds the hoist puck in place, mounted on there. Now, we've got another bag of hardware that's got the nut couplers and the extension hardware, some more 5/16 bolts that we're gonna put the feet together later. But we don't wanna figure out which slots we're gonna use for the feet. Until we have this system kind of lined up underneath the truck, we're not gonna put the feet together because we don't know if we're gonna end up mounting the feet directly to the bracket with a washer for the tightest fit on the F-150. We don't know if we're gonna have to use some of the nut couplers with some of the additional hardware to raise them up a little bit, or if needed, those extension bolts that could, give us the ability to mount the feet up here. If on the F-150, that's like, the flattest point to keep this mount tight, flat, and in place. There it is. There's the F-150 getting the upgrade. Right now, Matt's got the OG dual tank spare tire delete kit on there. Upgrading to that 5-gallon. All right, we're gonna get his old system cranked down. We're gonna get that 5-gallon Stealth that we just assembled off of the table and put it right in place. In preparation for getting this system installed on the F-150, we're gonna open up the bag that's got the filter housing for the compressor in it, because there's 2 barb fittings we need to get out of there. The male one is gonna go into the inlet of the compressor. So this one right here, we're gonna put that into the inlet of the compressor. And then the other fitting in there, the female, is going to get screwed on to the back of the filter housing, because we're gonna put this filter up clean, moisture-free, debris-free air away from road, grime, dirt, and debris. So the male one is gonna screw right in here into the front of the compressor. Get that hand tight, come back with a wrench, and get it tightened down. All right, on most new F-150s, you're gonna be removing this, I guess, spare tire hoist plug, we'll call it, with the factory key on the F-150s. And then in the back seat, there is the stick and the spindle that you'll need to drop down the factory spare. All right, there it is. Right behind the passenger side rear seat is gonna be the tools that we need to drop down the spare. All right, we've got that bar assembled. Like we said, it's gonna go in there, into that back hole back there, and then counterclockwise to lower the spare down. Or in this instance, we're upgrading systems, same thing, it'll be used to drop out that system. All right, now before we drop out the system, because we are doing an upgrade, we're gonna go through there and disconnect all of the wires that are currently hooked up to this system here so they can be reused for the new install. All right, as you can see there, Mr. Diaz is putting that lowering mechanism into the crank there. Guys, this video is gonna be 2 different directions: upgrading your system to a newer spare tire delete kit, as well as we're gonna go over if this was a new install. So imagine we're spinning the crank hoist there, and you're dropping down your factory spare tire. All right, we're gonna take a pause real quick. See this airline running up to a moisture-free, debris-free spot? That's the relocation for the filter for the compressor. We're gonna pause, pull it out, and finish lowering this down, just as if you'd be lowering down your factory spare for a new install. Just imagine this is the factory spare, same thing. We're gonna pull the puck up through here. We're gonna take that out. And this is what you'd use to crank up a new system into place. All All right, I got some of the components pulled out of the universal wiring kit that comes with the system. This inline fuse holder, you're gonna make a cut right here. One side's gonna be the ring terminal. The other side is gonna be the larger buck connector. And then the very last thing we're gonna do, once everything's hooked up, we're gonna put the larger 40 amp fuse in the fuse holder. So I'm gonna cut this, crimp these terminals on, and show you some more of the electric terminal components for install. All right, there it is. Cut the wire, put the ring terminal and the buck connector on. The main power wire that we run from the battery, with this on the main battery, will run all the way back to the back of the truck, where we will supply the pressure switch on the spare tire delete with this power. All right, we got our power wire here, got the hood popped on the F-150. We're gonna go through, we're gonna take the power wire, we're gonna take them out of these spools, we're gonna put a line all the way down here, getting all three of those pieces all the way rolled out. We're gonna go take them here, put them at the top of the battery. We're gonna run down here behind this fairing. We're gonna run them all the way down here along the frame rail, and then have them come out back here. All right, so this is an older install, guys. We've already got the inline fuse holder on the positive of the battery. We're gonna be upgrading Matt to the newest longer range wireless activation remote. All right, you can see the previous generation HornBlasters remote on there. This system install, we're not running any wires into the inside of the cab, no push button, no toggle switch. Everything's gonna be completely on the exterior of this F-150. We're gonna go ahead and upgrade Matt to the newest generation remote while we are doing this install. But yep, just like I said, the wires ran back there. That's how you're gonna run it back there in this install, so you can get that power supplied to the pressure switch, the power you need for the valve, and then the key power on source to make sure that the pressure switch in the system only has power and only can turn on when the truck is on. So the wires are gonna run back there, guys. You're gonna use the gray to go back to the valve. That's what we're gonna tie into the remote box so we can honk the horns. Now, that smaller blue wire that's up in there, that's what we're gonna use for key power. We'll show you where we've tied it into the fuse box inside the truck here. So that pressure switch in this system only has power if the truck is on, to make sure that compressor is never gonna run when the truck is off. To prep things the best we can, we're gonna go ahead and put a ring terminal on the ground of the valve and a red buck connector on the positive for the valve. Now, when it comes to the pressure switch that's on the side of the system, I'll get up here and show you guys there. The red wire that runs off of the back of the compressor, that's gonna come here and connect to the white wire on the pressure switch. The rest of the terminals on the pressure switch are already connected. That's gonna get connected to that fused positive source that we're running from the battery. This is gonna get grounded, and as labeled here, all of these are labeled, this is what we're gonna connect to the key power on source. Again, that's what's gonna make sure this pressure switch only has power when the truck is turned on. All right, so we're gonna get those terminals connected. We're gonna line up the bracket underneath here and determine what the best configuration in these slots is for those feet to mount to, so we can get this stealth spare tire delete kit tucked up in place best possible. All right, everybody, so we got it mocked up under here. We're kind of using our cart to figure out where we're gonna align it underneath here. We put those rubber feet on the top of the bracket, where we think they're gonna mount best to the crossbar underneath here. So we're gonna take our puck, we're gonna take our spare tire puck, we're gonna drop it down here in the center of the bracket, just as if we were putting it back into a spare tire. There we go. Lots of slack in the cable since we're using the cart now. All right, we're gonna get this hoisted back up into place so we can start to see if the configuration that we have planned for this is gonna be the best location or the best orientation. Maybe we need to turn it 1 degree to the left or right. Or yeah, we're gonna hoist this into place, see if this is gonna be the absolute best configuration for this F-150, and then we're gonna go from there. All right, we got the system up in place. You can see we got the rubber feet where we want them on the cross beam. We're gonna reuse that same grounding point we did before, which is a little self-tapper. We're gonna put this in here, tighten that down, and get the compressor grounded. And then we're gonna go to the front, and we're going to ground the pressure switch and the air valve. All right, back there we got the 3 wires coming in, the red positive and the gray and blue wire from the front. The blue is the key power on source. The gray is the positive that runs back here into the red wire on the valve. That's what's gonna run back up to that remote to activate it. The blue wire's up top there. We got, there it is, blue wire is right up top there with that red buck connector. We're gonna take that, and we're gonna connect it into the key power source labeled wire on the pressure switch. We're gonna ground the valve where we previously had it grounded, and we're gonna ground the pressure switch in that same spot over there. We did extend the wire on the ground of the valve ever so slightly to reach the same grounding point that we had there. And then that larger red positive wire that comes to the front that has that yellow butt connect. We're gonna connect it right there to the red wire on the pressure switch. Running through some things here. We got the valve grounded. We got the pressure switch grounded. We got the compressor grounded. We've got the red wire out of the pressure switch connected to the red wire that runs to the front of the truck here with the inline fuse holder off of the battery. The white wire off of the pressure switch connects to the red wire that is on the compressor itself. The blue wire, the smaller blue wire that comes off of the pressure switch is ran to the blue wire that runs to our front key power on source, guys. All right, the other gray wire that we have that runs to the front is connected to the positive red wire there on the valve. That's what's gonna give us the ability to honk those horns. That gray wire is what we're gonna connect to that Gen 2 remote box that we're installing in the engine bay. Last but not least, in the back here, we're gonna get our filter relocation kit set up for the compressor here. We're gonna put this air hose right here on the barb fitting, and then we're gonna get this filter mounted as high and as dry as we can get it up there on the inside of the bed fender there. We're gonna mount that in place, and then we're gonna show you how to wire the remote, and this system will be up and honking. All right, we went back to the table to make sure we weren't missing any main components of this install, and we found those safety cables. Super important. We're gonna go up under there, make sure we're mounting these like over those frame bars that go underneath there and mounting these onto solid parts of the bracket. We're gonna install them on the mount itself and then show you what they look like. All right, we got one of those safety cables wrapped around there. All right, we got that second safety cable wrapped on the other side of the bracket. And then we got number 3 going through the bottom of the puck hoist back around that crossbar. We're doing a HornBlasters remote with this kit, guys. Remember, we're not putting any wires inside of the cab of the truck. There's one small screw on the back side of the remote. You're gonna remove that screw, install the battery, and put it back together. All right, we've got the Gen 2 remote box wired in. The yellow goes back to that gray wire that's connected to the valve all the way in the back there. The 2 red wires coming out of it here, we've got ran to an inline fuse holder. We did use an inline fuse holder to install this since we're taking the positive volts directly from the battery itself. The last black wire, yep, the last wire back there, the black wire, we extended to run to the ground on the battery. All right, now on this F-150, the only wire that we did end up taking to the inside fuse box was this small blue wire here. All right, you can see the blue wire in there. Guys, I'm gonna list the number spot on the screen here that we tapped into to take that key power on to supply the blue wire. Remember, that runs all the way back to the pressure switch with that key power on to make sure, guys, that the system only has power when the truck is on. Mr. Diaz down there putting the last of the safety cables on there. I've got the new Gen 2 remote all wired up and ready to go. Let's get our tools pulled out of here. Got our handy dandy HornBlasters handheld remote. This thing is just moments away from blasting. All right, got the truck turned on with the key power, guys. There it goes.
All right, we got the install finished up. The Gen 2 remote is in there. It's honking. Thank you to Alessio and Spencer. Appreciate it.
Let's go. 5-gallon stealth on this F-150, ready to be blasting away. Tons of honk time on this, guys. You see in the video how easy it is to take that factory spare tire out, drop it down, replace it with one of our spare tire delete kits, or just how easy it is to upgrade from one of our older systems to the new 5-gallon stealth. Look at that license plate. Honk, it says it all. What an exciting day. Fresh spare tire delete on this F-150, baby. Wow. HornBlasters.com.